Insane. Big money numbers for Starlink, Neuralink, The Boring Company, and Tesla in 4 minutes. Are you ready? Let's go. Let's start with Starlink. 100 million customers paying $100 a month. Call it $1,000 a year. That's $100 billion a year in revenue for Starlink. What does it cost to get the Starlink network up and keep it up? 44,000 satellites. Starship launching 400 satellites, $2 million a launch, works out to $5,000 a satellite launch cost. Ballpark $100,000 for the satellite, call it $100,000 each. 44,000 satellites in orbit, call it $8,000 a year that you have to relaunch because every 5 years you need to replace the satellites. So that's 8,000 times 100,000 is $800 million. Call it $1 billion. Add a lot more. Call it $10 billion a year in expenses for this $100 billion a year in revenue, and you've got $90 billion a year in profit. Say I'm crazy. Knock it down to $50 billion a year in profit. Give it a price-earnings ratio of 30, and you have a $1.5 trillion company, and that's just Starlink. It doesn't include the value of SpaceX. How about Neuralink? Figure 10 million people a year with brain diseases get a Neuralink, and it only costs $10,000 a piece. That's $100 billion a year in revenue. Now figure it works, and it's great. And just regular people who don't have brain disease get it, and it's 100 million people a year paying $10,000 a year, and that's $1 trillion a year in revenue. And they upgrade every 3 years. Let's talk about the Boring Company. Currently, they have 1 mile of tunnels in Las Vegas. That project is going to expand soon to 25 miles and will probably be 100 miles sooner or later. There are about 1,000 cities in the world that are in the ballpark of Las Vegas' size or bigger. Each one of those cities could have 100 or more miles of tunnels. That's 100,000 miles of tunnels. 1 mile of tunnels now, 100,000 miles in the future. That is 100,000x growth. And let's talk about 2 models for Tesla. Elon Musk said they'll have their own robotaxi fleet of 10 million vehicles. Elon said that the typical robotaxi would make $30,000 a year in profit. 10 million vehicles times $30,000 a year in profit is $300 billion a year in profit. Give it a price-earnings ratio of 30, which is low. You have a $9 trillion company. That doesn't include Tesla Energy. That doesn't include selling cars. $9 trillion, that's a $9,000 share price in 2030, if not sooner. Or you can look at Tesla by batteries. 3 terawatt hours of batteries produced in 2030. 3 more terawatt hours from their suppliers. 6 terawatt hours of batteries. Figure $500 per kilowatt hour in revenue, which is less than they currently get in revenue for the products that use their batteries. That's $3 trillion in revenue a year in 2030. Price to sales ratio, call it 5, which is much lower than Apple's. You have a $15 trillion market cap. On top of the robotaxi market cap of $9 trillion, you have a $24 trillion company, $24,000 a share.